Welcome to Gimbal Financial. We want you to be safe, and it's a safe time, particularly if I happen to unmute the things, you'll be able to hear me. So hope your Friday has started off better than that.
And shout out to Rick, if you're on. Rick, I have no idea, but yeah, Keith and I, we do have a good time doing this. So last time you sent me a message saying we're looking like we're having too much fun, and we were. No crystal balls. Have you actually had a crystal ball?
I did. I think it got stolen because it disappeared.
Okay, I didn't see it.
Had it worked, it wouldn't have got stolen because I would have hit it.
Okay. Well, you would have known
to get it out. Yeah, I would have protected it. So there you go.
I have so many opinions today on one of the movers and shakers in the stock market. I don't know how in depth we could even go on it.
I think we can go as deep as you want. You know, like I was over at Eric and Caitlin's house the other day, and they have a retention pond behind their place, and he told me how little it was. But the one where I used to live, which you live there too, is more than 22 feet deep. So I say, when you can go deep, why not?
It has just been fascinating to see Elon Musk and Twitter and Tesla and all of this stuff going on in the marketplace. I mean, this has been just a crazy Wild West opening to the year.
And again, as I close out these disclaimers, this is strictly our opinions. There's absolutely no buy, sell, hold recommendations. We're just having a dialogue about the market for which we have been employed to serve you for many years now. So go ahead. What do you think about that, Doug?
Well, I don't know what to make of it, but I do love that things are being shook up a little bit, and that other people are throwing in their opinions as to what's going on. I was listening to Bloomberg News on the way over, and that's my kid's favorite radio station.
Wow.
97.5 Bloomberg News. And the Bloomberg people were really trying to figure it out. And bottom line is, here we have someone who's an entrepreneurial mind, and he's got opinions, and he's wanting to shake it up a little bit. And so today, if you didn't know today, I don't even know what's. I've been away from the computer for the last hour and a half, so who knows what's happened. But this morning, it was announced that Elon might be shying away from potential responsibilities. He tweeted out that he's got some concerns about Twitter, and in pre-market, the stock had just dropped dramatically, and then he made another tweet and it started to come back a little bit. So I don't even know what it's doing right now, but that's the kind of market we're in. And we've been in a headline driven news market for, since the pandemic.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges in America today is that we have moved away from the idea of let the buyer beware. Caveat emptor, that it is stinking risky to walk on the planet Earth. And if you go back into market history to the late 1800s, and those guys were gunslingers, they would have come at one another, those power players back in the day. I don't even think, I'm going from memory here, so any of you scholars out there that want to check it, I don't think that corporations, publicly traded corporations, had to report their financials until the 1930s. So you didn't. Up until the 1930s, if you were buying a publicly traded company, you had no idea what was going on in that company. And so I think that there's some truth to that today. I think the accountants out there can hide. And, we saw it around 2000 with Enron where they were hiding things. And so I think anytime you want to get involved in investing, you need to be aware.
Oh, my goodness. And it can't be personal bias. I mean, some of you know I love to ride a bicycle, but if I chose to take a hobby or a passion and convert that over to stocks and just buy what I like, there's this bicycle company, an indoor bicycle company that is probably right around $14. A couple months ago, it was double that. That one.
I'm not showing it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just.
It's. I mean, if you go back a couple months, it's been cut in half. If you go back all the way to August of last year, it was cut in half again, and so this is. It's interesting, the trends, and several of these stocks that were coronavirus benefactors have really been falling apart, and who knows where they will go. But a stock can always get cut in half. Whatever you buy it at today, it can get cut in half again. And so, yeah.
We had one of our friends was in a few years ago and just talking philosophically about time. And he said, time can be as long as you want it to be or short. Like if you cut a second in half, you have half a second. You can keep cutting that in half. You may not be able to measure it for infinity. So it can just get smaller and smaller. And the same thing with a stock. You can just keep cutting it in half and lose half of your capital every time it drops in half, and you have to have a plan. But I saw this article over the last couple of days. True market leaders, those are the companies that come out of a bear market into a new bull market and lead the market back upward. And there's no guarantees the market will ever go back upward because of our disclaimers, but it generally does. So this says true market leaders, stocks that outperform all the rest by doubling or tripling or more, fall by an average 72% once they reach their peaks. And that's the average decline for all big leaders of each market cycle for the past 50 years. Many of the high-tech leaders of the 1990 market lost more than 90% of their value. But this is from William O'Neill, but you say, don't they all come back for a while? The answer, unfortunately, for those who sit with them is no. Nearly half of these market leaders never recover to their former peaks, and those that do almost always take 5 years to do so. Some of the biggest winners can take much longer than that. And we saw one of the leaders that Microsoft was, when it peaked in 2000, it didn't hit that same level till 2016. So if you've made decisions and you've bought stocks out there and they are getting punched in the face, you probably should call us and we maybe help you think through a recovery strategy and what you might want to do with that, because it is, particularly if you own Nasdaq stocks, it's just dangerous out there. I found this quote a couple days earlier. The print's too small for me to give you the reference of who it's from, but as of April 29th, more than 45% of the stocks on the Nasdaq were down 50% from their highs. More than 22% of them were down 75% from their highs, and more than 5% of them were down 90%. And that was 2 weeks ago. If you add to that our kind of little chart that I came up with this summer, let me go find this guy for you. Bear with me here 1 second.
Talking to the Nasdaq stocks, I mean, these are 3,500 stocks, mostly growth oriented stocks. And so with inflation rising and the cost of stuff becoming more and more and more, it's like running with a parachute for a growth company. So several of the value companies have started to look a little better, but even those, man, it's been hard to find anything that is getting traction right now.
It is. And bear with me a second here. Okay. I'm going to share, this is just the summary I put together of the stocks in our database. Total stocks hit a new high this week from 96.30 to 96.38. And this orangish color I use here is, since we started tracking this back in August of last year, all of these hit a new high. So your 9,638 stocks, almost 8,600 of them are trading below their 21-day moving average, which is a 1 month average price. 8,400 are trading below their 50-day and 7,300 below their 200-day. So these stocks have basically hit a peak and are turning downward right now. And so it's just a time to be very cautious out there, in our opinion. There's going to be a time to buy, and we'll be ready with both fists to jump in there and do that. But it's just a time to be cautious, particularly if you have holdings that are making you anxious, or if you have something that's causing you disturbed sleep. Call us and we can maybe help you think through that, because there's no reason to sit and get more distressed if you're not comfortable with what you're doing.
I've seen some of that this week with legacy holdings. If there's a stock that you've had a long time Maybe you worked for that company. Maybe your mom or dad or grandma or grandpa owned shares of that company. It's a legacy position, and you've just held it. We could talk through it. We could look at a chart with you and just say, okay, is this the best place for you to be, or would now be a decent time to take a look at other options?
Yeah, and
or just letting the dust settle.
Yeah, and there are strategies that can step in there for you. And I was looking at some charts, and as you can tell, we don't always buy and hold at Gimbal Financial. We make decisions on your behalf to try to protect your capital and grow it the best that we can. And sometimes the best way to grow it is to keep it from getting smashed in the face during downturns. And so this chart I have is the list of the worst bear markets in the Nasdaq. And the Nasdaq are generally those growth stocks that they come to the marketplace and they can launch and do things. But the 1973, January 1973 to October of 74, the Nasdaq dropped 59%. And
that is brutal.
And the author of this, I don't think was completely genuine here, because they broke the Nasdaq market from March of 2000 to the end of 2002, and the 5 separate bear markets. I would say that market was just one bear market, but and so they tried to show that it was only these certain amount of days. But if you broke that, if you just said it was down about 85 to 90% from March of 2000 to the end of 2002, that's how bad the Nasdaq can get. And that's why, depending on your age, your personality, and your stage, you need to think through risk consistently as you're looking at the markets. That market, the way they put it on this thing, was the March of 2000 to May of 2000, it was down 37%. Then they reset it and said from March or July of 2000 to January of 2001 is down 46%. And then later in January until April that next year is down 43%. Then from May of 2001 to just after September 11th, it was down 39%. And then from January of 2002 to October of 2002, it was down 46%. So that's kind of what we were saying earlier, that instead of just saying the whole bear market was down about 85%, they just kept whacking it in their study here by 35% at a time.
Monday through Friday, the stock market is open for business literally every second of the day. Something is being priced and is being valued. Buyers and sellers are hashing it out for how much they want to pay or how much they want to give for something. And there's really nothing else like that. If we had to put this building up for sale or that piece of art up for sale and it was priced every second of the day, your car, your house, just imagine the emotions of that and the psychology of that. And that's what we're seeing played out in the marketplace on every given day. It's just, what do the sellers want? Do the buyers have to have it, or can they take a pass? Right now, the thing Keith and I love about the stock market is there are big companies, endowments, big education funds. These groups are trying to get in and make their balance sheets go up, and we don't have to participate all the time. We can wait until they start buying again and then participate.
Yeah, I think what we and I don't know how many bear markets I've lived through in this business, and according to that chart, a whole lot. But I like I said, I think that 2000 and 2002 was one bear market, which really I had an afro before that, and those things can wear and tear on you if you don't have a strategy to try to minimize your risk to your capital. And so when we look at these markets and we think about them, is like, how liquid are the things out there? And liquidity is, can I sell this thing very easily? And the markets are less liquid today, in my opinion, than they were 6 months ago, because the buyers aren't as aggressively coming to the table. I don't know if you've ever been to a fish pond where you can throw some food in there and the fish will come up, but there was one somewhere up in Michigan we were at one time, and they almost came flying out of the water. And if you envision those fish being ones that are wanting to buy the stocks, we're not in that kind of market right now. You you can throw all the food out there and they're just waiting patiently till nobody's watching to come snag it. And that's okay. That gives us the opportunity to be selective what we want, but eventually there'll be a market again where those fish are just jumping at the food.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to that.
Me too.
I've been looking forward to that for, it seems like, several weeks.
Yeah,
that'll be good.
I like when we bought this building, I don't remember how long it was before I actually brought Connie over to look at it, because it was kind of atrocious looking. It was not what it
not
looks
very
like.
desirable.
Yeah, and it takes a certain stomach to envision something like the trim was purple and green, I think, around the windows out there.
If you get on Google, I think the picture's still there.
Yeah.
And if you know how to change that, call me and tell me.
Yeah. So I've been using Zillow in case we wanted to find something closer to here to live in. And this is a highly sought after marketplace. But I noticed last night, one of the places that I had looked at, they had lowered the price 10%. And
okay, we haven't seen that in a while.
Yeah. And so what it told me is that the liquidity of houses, the fish aren't able to jump. And part of that reason is because we've seen such a dramatic increase in interest rates that forced some of that capital away from the market. And in case you didn't know it, the Federal Reserve does not control interest rates. They can influence them, but supply and demand is what influences interest rates. And so as people get more anxious, they're going to push more money into things that pay interest, which will push the interest rates down and the prices up on those things. So it'll be interesting to watch what happens in a lot of markets with this kind of disruption we have right now.
Speaking of real estate, I saw last night Goldman Sachs came in and bought an entire community in South Florida and paid premium dollars for it. And when you see stuff like that, it reminds me of like the old days in 2007 when you drive up I-69 and 8 out of 10 billboards would be home builders. And so you just watch for trends. There's trends in everything in life. But right now, the trend of the stock market is there is a speeding truck driving down the road. It's time to get on the sidewalk.
And it will change. And that change can happen quickly, like it did in 2020, or it can just
be today.
Yeah, or it can just be a gradual kind of wearing out the sellers. As the sellers anxiety picks up, the weekends give people a chance to look at their 401k statements. They look at what's going on in the marketplace, and I'm talking about not our clients, because we hopefully inform you as well, but I'm just saying people that don't have somebody walking through this journey with them. They're laying in bed on Saturday night after they looked at it and pondering, what could have been. Last November my accounts were here and now they're here. How low can this go? And the answer is you don't know. You don't know how low it can go. And so we feel like that psychology is expressed in the charts in the marketplace, where people eventually just get worn out and give their shares away. And it's that the one of the industry kind of verbiage they use is the money moves from the weaker hands to the stronger hands. And that has to do with the emotions that are built up in people.
That's true for any sector, whether that be the home builders or, I think the hot topic right now is cryptos. It's just, hey, well, I'm just going to hang on to this. This is a volatile sector. It'll go up.
Yeah.
There's no guarantees it will.
Yeah. And literally, I think if I went back and looked every day for the last 3 weeks of the market, I think a single stock has been taken out to the woodshed and knocked in half almost every single day in the last 3 weeks, which you don't see that very often. And some of these stocks were names that were leading the market not that long ago.
Yeah, and some of these stocks are household names, the companies you all use. That's been shocking to me.
Right, and so it is, according to William O'Neill, who we quote a lot, that all stocks are speculative unless they go up. And so no matter what your tie is, if you work for the company, if they pay your pension, whatever, they're only as good as what they've done for you lately. And I'm not throwing any names into that equation. I'm just saying the risk of a company can be more than you can emotionally perceive based on your kind of fondness for that company. But I wouldn't let that distract you from making an objective decision. Well, I'm going to shift topics just a smidge, just to point out the lack of objectivity we see sometimes in the media. And I am looking at.
I think we should label this sector called Keith's Corner.
Keith's Rantings. Do I look smarter? Can you guys vote? Do I look smarter when I wear these or no? In September of 2021, we were regularly bringing up a COVID update. And when I look at the September 9th, 2021 COVID update, around July of last year, the daily new positive COVID tests dropped down to the 20 to 25,000 cases. And they were at that same level probably in May of 2020. So that level, and then they started escalating from that level. And then that's last July, if you remember, that's when anxiety started getting amped up again. I'm curious, I haven't seen anything in my media reports that COVID cases bottomed out on March 19th at 27,000 on a 7-day moving average, and now they're at 75,000 on a 7-day moving average. They have tripled since March, and I haven't heard anything about it. So it makes me wonder if possibly there wasn't a little bit of political bias involved in the hype of this thing, because it definitely, we're hearing more and more people with COVID. Thankfully, when we're talking to people, that it's more and more cases like a cold or a flu. I had a cold a couple of weeks ago, and it seemed to have all the symptoms. I took that COVID test that I was barking about a few weeks ago. I took it home and used it, and I tested negative. But all the symptoms that hit myself and those in our household seemed just like what this current kind of thing of COVID is. Nasty. It kind of congested my lungs and things, but it tested negative. But anyway, I tell you that to encourage you to live as fearlessly as possible, not to let any kind of media suck you into anxiety, and particularly if there's anything going on with your finances that's concerning you. Our desire is to help you live your best lives. And so if there's anything we can do to cheer you on to success in that, we want to be there for you.
Absolutely. And Bloomberg's desire and Fox's desire is to sell more ads. And so, they're going to ramp up, especially the worst things get in the stock market. They're going to have a ticker tape up, flashing, all kinds of creative stuff to keep your attention. But yeah, we want to do the opposite of that.
It seems like in my memory, I feel like it was the Iran crisis in the late 70s where they started putting that ticker tape update on world events on the news, but that seems like a long time ago. So forget what event really they started doing that, but they put it in red. Red is the color on my pinball machine that causes all kinds of anxiousness when you're playing pinball. It's the color on your phone that makes you know that you have messages, makes you kind of builds that kind of addictive personality to it. So if you see anything on your TV screen that's red, it's not really trying to help you live your best life. It's trying to create anxiety and an addiction to their information, which may or may not be true.
There are some, we talk about the down markets of the early 2000s, and you think about the innovation that's come out of that. It's mind blowing where we are today and the stuff we get to live with and work with. And that's what excites me about this sell-off right now. Is there is a leader emerging, there's a whole new group that's emerging, and we'll get to participate in it, we'll get to see it, and we'll clearly know what it is. But right now, there's just so much rotation, and so you're going to be messaged with fear and uncertainties. Even from the favorite Twitter star of the week. I mean, you're just going to get hit left and right with different news and different things to bounce in between your ears.
I do have, if I can find my phone here, I have, we used to give like kind of advice of things to do for your entertainment value on different situations. Back in the olden day, we'd offer a movie or something along that way. But I found a podcast that I'd really like Eric to start watching, and it's called Daily Dad Jokes, because Eric brings some dad jokes in here, and they got some real weakness to it. But this Daily Dad podcast, it's got some really good dad jokes. So if you need a breather, I highly recommend Daily Dad Jokes. So
Eric, if you're listening, which I believe you are, today's dad joke was solid. So
okay.
if you need a dad joke, call Eric.
Yeah, or watch this podcast because it might be a little bit better. I'm just saying. What else you got for us, Doug?
Hey, that's it for me. It's been an interesting week. Thanks for tuning in, and let's see what happens next week.
All right, y'all have a great weekend and hope to see you real soon.
Bye.